Hello, there we go. I was about to start talking without the audio on. So tonight I am sculpting Dead Hand, which is one of the monsters at the bottom of the well, and I believe in the Shadow Temple of Ocarina of Time. I don't remember if it occurs in Majora's Mask. It's been a long time since I've played both of those games, although I'm extremely fond of them. I've played Majora's Mask a little bit more. But yeah, so I don't normally, when there's a poll, do both of the things, or more than one thing that shows up on the poll. The reason I am doing this one is because I felt kind of bad that TikTok wanted Dead Hand. And then when I looked at YouTube and all of the platforms, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, Wilbur Whately won by like a vote or two, but I think there was 3 to 4 people on TikTok who definitely wanted Dead Hand. So I was like, you know what? I'll just do both because I didn't really have a plan for today anyhow. So I decided to go ahead and do both because Dead Hand was definitely the second choice. And it always feels bad because I know a lot of the people on TikTok don't know I have stuff on YouTube and vice versa. So it looks like I'm ignoring the polls that I set up when I'm really looking at all platforms. So yeah, that's why I decided to go ahead and do 2 instead of just 1. I don't normally do that, but, you know, I figured that'd be cool. And I did 3D print some skulls to add to this. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, so we're going to go ahead and start here. Now, I did take a lot of time. I added oil to this particular clay because I was having issues with this clay drying out. That's what was causing me so much issues with the last sculpture I did. The arms on it are definitely subpar for my work. The clay was cracking quite a bit. It was causing problems. So I spent a great deal of time. It's still cracking when I do this, but I spent a great deal of time running this through the clay press, making sure it was much more soft and easy to work with because it has definitely dried out. I did go ahead and buy some more of my favorite clay, but I think we're going to save that for more detailed sculptures that require a lot of smoothing and detail. This is going to be, this one, I'm debating about how to do it, but he's got red spots all over his body, so I'm thinking I'm going to do like indentations and damage, like pieces of flesh missing kind of look. The older, I think Ocarina of Time was originally N64, I think, which I never had an N64. I had the updated version that was done for the GameCube quite a bit later. So I think I actually have it on a special edition disc that has the Master Quest, which I have still not played the harder Master Quest version. That is something I want to do at some point. But yeah, so I have that version, and on that, the animation is a bit, what's the word I'm looking for? It's older animation, so it looks very blocky. And sometimes it's a little hard to tell with the coloration what was intended. I know there's a newer updated version of Dead Hand, and that one doesn't have the red spots so much. It's just smooth and kind of weird. But I'm going to kind of go with what I'm more familiar with and kind of how I interpreted it when I saw it. I was seeing it as kind of a partially decayed zombie-like thing. So that's what we're going to go with, because that was what was in my head when I played the game. I don't remember how old I was. I know I got the game quite a bit later, because I'd already played Windwaker and potentially Twilight Princess. And then I found the old game at GameStop. And I got a special edition version. I also have a special promotional version of the Wind Waker with a demo of the Wind Waker that has a whole bunch of the older Zelda games redone for GameCube. And it always makes me laugh because right on the front of it, it says not for resale. And GameStop resold it. So I ain't complaining though. It's a really cool copy to have. But yeah, I have that, and then I have the Master Quest and a regular version of the Ocarina of Time, which is where this character comes from. Now, I believe you run into Dead Hand originally in the bottom of the well. As I said, it has been a long time since I played this game, but it gives you the lens of truth, and then I think that's when you go to the Shadow Temple. That's really weird. I do not really have vivid memories of the Shadow Temple. All I remember is Dead Hand kind of being a bit of a disappointment with how easy he was to kill versus how scary he looked. Like, I saw him and I was like, he looks terrifying. He should be really hard to kill, but I don't remember him being that difficult to fight. And I think that kind of ruined the effect for me a little bit, because he is terrifying. He's a terrifying looking boss, but he's just not that scary mechanics-wise. Whereas some of the other bosses in that game were tough. I know I had trouble with some of them. Though a lot of it was just because the tracking system was different in the older games. I know when they ported it over to GameCube, playing Majora's Mask, you can't change the camera angles unless you lock on things. That's the only way to change the camera angle. And I find games like that difficult to play because I'm so used to using that second joystick to flip my view angle around. But yeah, I remember some of the bosses, some of the other bosses. Dead Hand's like a mini boss, but I remember some of the other bosses giving me a lot more trouble. I, for some weird reason, always associated this with the hand that comes out of the toilet, although I don't think that is what it is or has any relation to. And I'm not sure where I got that idea. Probably just because it has all the hands around it. I meant to look up the lore of the hand in the toilet thing, because that's something that shows up in several Zelda games. And it's so odd. I'm like, there has to be something behind it, I'm sure. But I don't know what it is. But it's pretty messed up in Majora's Mask when you can give the hand the paper, the love letter. I think it was a love letter from Cafe instead of giving it to the person it's intended for. I always thought that was a little messed up. But I'm a bit more familiar with Majora's Mask because I did replay Majora's Mask a couple times. I have only played Ocarina of Time once. I do vividly remember Water Temple. I think a lot of people remember the Water Temple, mostly because Mr. Zora took forever to move out of the way. And we all have memories of sitting there like, come on, move away, please. It was rather funny that they did that. I hope they keep that in the updated versions. Just torment everybody with it. The one thing I do really love about Ocarina of Time is I love Sheik. I love Zelda being a character that's actively doing things and involved in the world, because most of the time her involvement's important, but she's like stuck somewhere and she has to hold back, you know, corruption or power, and she can't go anywhere. I love the fact that she's actually actively in the world doing stuff. And her Sheik disguise, or however you say the word, is one of my favorites. If I ever did a cosplay, I'd want to do either that or Midna. It'd be so cool. All right. Yeah, this is already so much easier to work with. So I added oil to it because I saw a lot of people did that. If it's, you know, clay's older and starting to dry out and causing problems, you can add a little bit of oil and that will condition it a bit and make it easier to work with. So I tried that when I was running it through the press, and that really did help. Like, this is so much easier to smooth now. It's not breaking on me as much. So it'll definitely make a difference. And then when we do more important sculptures, I will try to, or more less textured sculptures, let's put it that way. I will use my Fimo because I bought some more Fimo Soft, but I don't have very much of it, so because it's a bit more pricey. I think it's like $5 to $6 more a pound than this stuff. So it's really not worth it considering I don't make money from these sculptures. And I usually buy this stuff in bulk, and you can't really buy Fimo in bulk. At least nowhere I found sells it for a decent price in bulk. I do have a rather comical story. So I was running this stuff through the clay press, which is basically like a pasta machine. That's really all it is. And I have this weird ability to injure myself with the strangest things. And as I was working with the clay press, the handle, I can show you, the handle comes off. It just comes off like this, and there's a little slot that it fits into, but it falls out super easy. And I was trying to run a fairly stiff piece of clay through it. It was giving me some trouble. My little automated machine I got broke within 20 minutes because it couldn't handle the clay. So I was just having a real tough time doing this by hand. And that little thing that I was holding on, really firmly trying to bend it toward me, the little piece that holds it in, it's just a bad design. That little end piece here slipped out, and this entire thing swung up with my arm because I had my arm and the weight of my arm pressing against it toward myself. It swung up, did a circle, and smacked me right on the chin, and I now have a weird little purple lump developing on the side of my chin. So every time I move my chin too much, I'm just like, ow, it hurt. I don't know how I did that. My chin and head was so far away from that thing, but somehow between the pressure from my arm and me putting all my weight on it and then it giving way, just flew up and hit me. I mean, it could have hit me in the eye or been a lot worse, but it really hurt. I don't know how I do these things. But yes, thank God it did not hit my eye or any of my teeth. That could have been worse. No, it just hit the side of my chin. It was very small, so I just have this very weird oblong shape on the side of my chin that I think is starting to turn purple. Now he kind of moves along the ground like this, but I feel like he should be... I imagine him emerging from the dirt, since that's kind of what he does. Some of it makes it look like this is his body, and I kind of don't like that. So I think I'm going to have him emerge from the dirt. So I'm going to pile up clay around the edges here and make it look like dirt's coming out, and then we'll do some of the free hands coming out that way. Because I think that's a better image for what this character looks like. If we're going by the older design that isn't as detailed. Because I don't like the idea that he doesn't have feet and he just is like a little dress thing. That's kind of weird looking to me. So I like going by the older design because it gives me more artistic freedom. And I imagined him being half buried in the dirt and sort of swimming through the dirt, if you will. Since all the hands and stuff emerge from the dirt as well. I apologize if my voice is a little raspier than normal. I don't know why it's been like that again. I think it's every time the temperature changes, it does that. Yeah, smooth this out a bit. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's definitely smoothing better since I added oil and basically clay pressed the heck out of all these pieces. I think I might need to find a more sturdy case or something that is more airtight. Normally I use Ziploc bags and that works fine, but I think the Ziploc bags are getting old and I think some of them aren't perfectly airtight. So I think that's part of the issue is that the clay is drying out, but they're kind of also a bit dry from the pack. So it's not completely that. I think it was just the batch that I got was a little dry. And then my house is dry and it's just a combination of problems. But yeah, I was so bummed the more I looked at my sculpture from last week. I was like, I really should have taken the time to smooth out the arms better. But it was just really giving me a tough time. I have some very lovely jasmine green tea. It's one of my favorite tea types. I have it next to me right now. So if you hear me randomly slurping and sipping on something, that is what I am doing. Oh no, I may have to. I hope I don't have to condition more clay. I don't really want to. I thought I did enough. I may not have. Okay. Now, the interesting thing, too, with Dead Hand is his actual arms that are on his body kind of end pointy. And there isn't a lot of clarity on exactly why that is. I always imagined that he had, like, severed hands. That's what I saw as a kid. And when I looked at it again, I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I think, again, newer design maybe didn't do that, but I feel like that's kind of what was implied. The way that his hands worked, and then all the other hands come up behind him all the time. So I'm going to go for that because that's what I imagined from the older design. Okay, and then to do the dirt texture, we're probably just going to do the brush. All right, now I do want to embed a skull somewhere in here. Because if you look at the old one, I rewatched somebody playing part of it because I was like, I need to remember what that first dungeon looked like. There is a weird, like, skull texture all over the wall. So there's just skulls everywhere. One of my intent is to have an arm coming up here on the side and having it resting on top of the skull. And then another arm up here in the back. Will probably be 1 or 2 arms, maybe 3. I know he has a lot more than that quite often. But for the sake of the sculpture, I think that'll make it look balanced. Okay. Okay, so this is a pretty good base. Yeah, I may have to condition some more clay. I thought I had enough. Okay. Well, let me go ahead and... This is too big. But we can do it around the edges of here. That's fine. We gotta get our smaller... brush to do better dirt textures. But... I do have one more skull I can add to this. I think the temperature in the oven's low enough I can get away with this. But do be careful if you do polymer clay and you put something in the oven. Make sure it can withstand the heat. I'll have to double check. If not, I may have to wedge these out before I bake the sculpture. Because that can be a bad idea. You don't want to... Let me close that. I'm gonna have to manually do this too because this isn't enough texture. No matter how hard I hit it, it still looks not quite like dirt. Because it needs to look like unearthed clods of dirt. Make it all... I should probably do this last, to be honest. I don't know why I'm doing this right now. I should probably work on the head and the arms and then do the dirt bit last. Yeah, because it's going to take a while to get that kind of texture everywhere. All right, so let's go ahead and cover the head here because I got to see how much clay I'm going to need to add to this. Now, the hardest thing in the sculpture is literally just going to be the head. Everything else is pretty easy. He also does not have eyeballs. He has no eyeballs. It's just empty sockets. And for the mouth, I may, I'm going to extend the mouth down. It's either that or I'm going to have to cut out some of the existing head base that we have. The hardest thing is going to be the teeth. So I think we're going to make his lips here. Smooth this out. Okay. Okay. And then let's see if we can do... No, I feel like that's too big. We're gonna have to cut out some stuff. Because I want his mouth to be right here. So that's fine. We'll just extend it downward. We can just cut out portions of it. Don't cut towards yourself. That's not smart. I was about to do that. Okay, we're gonna just rip out a whole bunch of the lower half of this. Okay. And I think we can work with this. There we go. And let's see, eyes need to be about here. And there. Okay, let me pull up my reference photo here again. He's got a very heavy brow. Very angular eye sockets. And then we got to do the nose here. Kind of see what I'm working on. He's got a very pointy nose. Very pointy. Okay. Pointy triangle nose. It's kind of small too. But yeah, we're going to need to add to the brows because he's got very heavy, like, eyebrows. think everybody's nose is kind of pointy in the models used in both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. That's odd. I'm smelling like wood smoke. I have an AC that's got the window open, so I'm assuming it's outside and not something randomly burning in my home. Well, I guess somebody's having a fire right now somewhere. Okay, now let's see. I'm gonna add clay here. I'm gonna add clay here. There we go. Okay. All right, give me 1 second. I gotta go. That's what we have so far. I gotta go check to make sure nothing in my house is burning because I am smelling smoke and I think it's from outside, but you know, better to be safe than sorry. So I'll be right back. Ay. Yeah, everything seems fine. It must be outside somewhere. I don't see smoke, but it's really dark, so I cannot tell. But neighbors somewhere must be having some sort of bonfire or cooking something. Who knows? Hard to tell. But either way, my house is not burning down, so that's good. Hold on, let me do... So you can see his gum line, so let me see if I can do that. There we go. All right, now we do the bottom gum line. And then I'll do a second thing here, see if I can add teeth. His big creepy teeth. He does have a chin, I think. Okay. Okay, so we got the gums now. We got to do another piece for the teeth. Okay. And this is the part that is hard. There we go. We're getting his teeth in there. Let's do another. Oh. A little bit longer. There we go. I can do this. All right. There we go. We're almost done with the teeth. Teeth. All right. Okay. Now I just need to go over everything lightly and try to smooth it all out a bit. He doesn't really have lips. And his head is very sculpt-like. I don't quite have the head right, I don't think, for the shape. There we go. I mean, he's pretty creepy. I've accomplished that much. Okay. Smooth this out some more. Alright, so we gotta do his arms. Now, I always imagined his arms as sort of tiny half, what's the word? Severed arms, basically. I always viewed it as severed arms, so that's what I'm gonna go for. Don't know that that's what was intended, but they look that way because they're also red on the end, and they're like small and pointy, and they're red on the end. Although they are basically almost full arms. But I'm gonna go with what I imagined, so. Because what I imagined was horrifying. That may not have been what was intended, but it was terrifying when I saw it, so. We're gonna make this horrifying like the way I imagined it. Now, let's see. We can do a little bit of our body shape here. Because pecs would be right about here. I didn't do much, but that's fine. We will deal with that when we come to it. Okay. This needs to have more clay. Okay. And his arms are always a bit comically small. Okay. We're going to do this. This. And we're going to smooth out all of the things on the arms. I don't know if you can see what I did on the end there. Try to make it look kind of severed. I kind of think the severed arm thing fits so well, though. At least I don't think that's what they meant exactly. But viewing it that way and then seeing all the random disembodied hands everywhere, I think fits very well with the enemy design. So even if that's not what they intended, it fits lovely into the horror theme of Dead Hand. So his, main body not having hands was fits pretty well. So that's why I'm sticking to it. Because that's what I imagined, and I really think it does add some depth to the character design. Just a little bit. So, here we go. That's one arm done. And then we'll have to flatten this out a bit to attach it. And I also remember his arms being comically small. At least in my eyes, they were comically small. And then, whoops, I dropped my tools. Okay. There we go. I have another partially severed hand. We're gonna attach this one. The only thing I'm seeing is I may have made him a little too wide up top. I think maybe he should be a little narrower. But he is a little weirdly proportioned, so not completely off. Okay. There we go. And then now we need to do, I need some wire pieces here because we got to do our arms that stick out. Although actually here, we might want to do some details like up the back here. Because once we have the arms that we're adding, it'll be a little difficult to do so. Let's go ahead and smooth out and add some details to the back. Actually, let me... Thankfully, his back is large enough for this to actually work decently well. Okay. First things first, I kind of want to do a spine. Okay. Because we're assuming he has some vague human anatomy, kind of. Ugh. Let's... We're gonna curve it too. I'm gonna curve it weird. Yeah, scoliosis. But he's kind of amorphous, so I feel like that would be... He turns into an amorphous blob to a degree. Because I feel like if we were doing hips, this would be where the hips would be. Tailbone would be somewhere in here, so... Let's smooth this out. Okay. Alright. And then... Okay. Now, my next sculpture is not going to be creepy because I want to take a break from making creepy, weird stuff for a little bit. Although I may do another SCP. I found the brain in the jar one, and that one looks pretty cool, so I may do that one here. But that one's more funny than it is creepy. And brains are fun to sculpt. But I don't think I'll do that one live because it's got enough side, like resin and other stuff that I'll have to add. Then I might just do it as an additional video because I will be gone on the 17th for a minor surgery procedure thingy. But I won't be able to do stuff. Might be able to do stuff, but I don't know. So I'm not planning on it. So I'm going to see if I can do a video ahead of time to post, just so that I have some consistency. I know no one's really like holding their breath for the stuff that I'm making, but I know it helps if I am consistent with my schedule. Because then people who do want to join can actually watch and know what to expect. Okay. And if you look at the original model, no, he doesn't have a spine like this, but I don't care. I am trying to make him cooler and creepier. I should probably add shoulder blades. The lumps for the shoulder blades right here. And it's okay if he's a little misshapen. He's not exactly a normal creature. So, 'tis all excusable. Okay, let me make 2 shoulder blades roughly the same size. Okay. Alright, so now we're gonna blend this in a little bit. Alright. Okay. Alright, this. This. I'm gonna have to do something to hold the head up a little bit because it's gonna keep falling forward. Alright. Let me see if we can make the front part look a little more human-ish in its design. like so. It's almost more like gills when I do it like that. There we go. I'm gonna smack this arm sideways like this because I'm trying to keep it. I want it to face outward a bit. And then this one can do what it wants. It can go that way. That's fine. Okay. So we have a little bit of a more normal chest shape before he goes into this amorphous blob shape that is Dead Hand. Alright, so now there are a lot of... Dead Hand has a lot of weird red spots on his body. My brain interpreted those as like missing pieces of flesh. So that is what we're gonna do. I was toying with the idea of, what's the word I'm looking for? Making like congealed looking blood. I can do that pretty well with resin. So I may do that a bit for pieces of this. So we're going to do little patches of torn away, kind of like skin, like this, in various spots. It looks like he has a pretty big one here. Okay, we're going to do it right there. Okay. There we go. We're going to do like that. Let's see. We could do, it looks like there's some on the arm, so we can do, or it's indented pieces on the arm. Let's see if we can make this look like exposed bone and muscle. There we go. We're getting there. We're making little torn up pieces of flesh. So, like I said, I don't know that that's what was intended, but it is what my brain interpreted this as, which is why it was so horrifying to me, personally. Because just having weird purplish flesh-colored spots is not that scary. But having like, oh, partially missing flesh pieces, that's pretty horrifying. So we're making this according to my sense of horror. All right, we got that. It looks like there's some major ones. There's a lot on the arms, but I really don't want to mess with my arms too much here. I kind of like the way I've done them. I'll just do another little one here. And there's a major one on the back of the head that almost all of them have. This would be pretty easy actually, because I can smooth this down a bit to look like exposed skull. And down here would be the muscle, I think. Okay. All right. Now, push all this together here. Okay. No, I think I should do a little bit more. I could do. There really isn't any on his face, but I feel like I want to do this right here. There we go. And it's okay if this is a little blobby because he kind of is very blob-like in many ways. All right, so now we're going to do the arms. Let's see, I gotta bend this here. Okay, we're going to take this arm. I gotta wrap this. Make a long, skinny arm. That long skinny arm. All right. Now the hands are kind of shapeless, wavy arms that just come out of the ground. I'm not too concerned about that. There we go. Actually, I want this arm here, but we can move this little guy forward a bit. Like so. Alright. So then we can put that hand there. Okay, now we got to do a quick little hand here. Alright. Thumb off to the side. And then one, two, three. Mm-hmm. Okay. There we go. Nice, long, thin hand. I'm gonna just wrap it around this. Okay. Shoot this a bit more like a hand. Okay, I need something small to smooth this out. All right. Okay, so there's one hand. We should do another one coming up the side here. But we gotta do that. And then there we go. About this. We'll have the other one coming up this side, like this. Okay. Let's wrap this real quick. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna shove the third skull, not second skull, here. Half bury it, kind of. Shove some pieces around here that we're going to turn into like dirt blocks for the hand. And then we just got to do this hand, and then we should be finished. And I am going to have to put something under his chin to keep his head from going down too much. It has support, but because it was mostly, what's the word I'm looking for? Mostly aluminum foil, it's not terribly sturdy. Okay. We're gonna... Okay. Alright, we're gonna... Fingers, and fingers. Alright, and then we're gonna add a thumb here real quick to this side. We'll shape the hand a little bit, and then we should be good. Yeah, let's add a little more detail to this hand. And then after we do this hand, all we have to do is the dirt pattern at the base. And that is it. And then we will be finished up. All right. So this is what we have so far. We just gotta smooth out that hand a bit. Thankfully, because this one's, torn up and damaged looking, I can justify almost anything as just torn flesh or something like that. All right. Just gonna, where's my, this. Here we go. I can see this arm's also going to want to kind of twist the wrong way. So I'm going to have to prop this one up too. So the head and this arm's going to have to be propped a bit to keep them from falling out of place. All right. Run around and make this a little more random and dirt-like. We are almost finished. It's making my hand hurt. Should grab my tea. My tea is cold. I always make drinks and then totally forget about them. Thankfully, it still tastes good when it's cold, but like... All right. We are done. Like I said, this is going to be held up, so here we go. We are done with our version of Dead Hand. This hand's going to be like this, and the head's going to be up a little higher. I'm going to prop them a little bit when I bake them. But, yeah. You can see his back. You can see the dirt pattern that I did. The flesh things. I don't know why I keep hiccuping. Sorry. I don't know if the mic is picking up on it or not. But I apologize. I'm sorry that keeps happening. But yeah. I think we are done for now. If you watch this, I do greatly appreciate it. I will be finishing this one up. Should be finishing it up next week. I will be painting him. But I greatly appreciate any comments, suggestions, interactions that I do get. Let me prop his head up so it doesn't fall off. I'll try to bake him sooner rather than later to prevent that. Anything from getting damaged. But yeah, I greatly appreciate interactions I get. And If you have any ideas for what you'd like to see me sculpt, please leave a comment or let me know. I do pay attention to comments, and I do try to follow up on those. So if you have something you'd like to see me do, let me know. And I hope that you have a wonderful night or morning, whatever time it is for you.